Okay. You think I would remember all of this by now?
Click on my picture.
Right, I got you. You're the host now. Of my own heart, I've been moving my feet to the beat of my own heart. How can I follow anyone else? I gotta find it for myself. I can be anything I want to be. I can do anything that I believe. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rainey Speaks. I am Rainey Cheeks, and I am so glad to have you with me again tonight. This is the last Thursday of the month of January. Can you believe that already? Before I get started, I want to remind everybody to take your phone and call everybody in your phone book. This is the highest season of depression and suicide between November and Easter. And part of it has to do with depression, has to do with lack of sunlight. We have been locked inside through COVID and the cold, and there's less sunlight. And one of the easy fixes is to go to the store and get what they call happy lights. And if you don't see happy lights, just ask them for full spectrum lights. And you put full spectrum lights in your house, and it will help with the lack of sunlight and fighting depression. Reach out to your friends, stay connected. So I'm going to encourage you that if somebody just come to mind, take your phone, call them and say hello. And if you get their voice message, leave your phone number so that don't take for granted they have my phone number. We never know what someone is going through. Reach out and stay connected. Okay, thank you. All right. I had fun the last 8 weeks doing lessons on the chakras of the body. And we got through those 8 weeks. And then tonight, we have with us none other than the Reverend Dr. Wallace Henry, the pastor of Inner Light Ministries, who I have been waiting to get him on here. And I finally got my yes from him. And he is with us tonight. So I'm just going to, let me just adjust one thing here. There we go. Oh, I see Pearl is with us tonight. Hello, how are you? Yes. I could say a whole lot about this man who I'm about to introduce. I don't use this one lightly when I say, when I put him in the category of my best friend. You know how you can tell when they're your best friend? When you give them power of attorney of your life. You don't give that to just anybody. When somebody got the power to pull the plug on you, you don't just give that to anybody. You give that to somebody you really trust. But I love his spirit. I'm going to let him tell his story. I was surprised that we actually met in California. And I'm going to just tell this little part of it, and then I'm going to bring him on. I was doing a workshop, and I believe he took every workshop that I was teaching at a convocation. And he said to me, I'm going to study with you. And I said, well, brother, I'm not from California. He said, I'm not either. I said, well, I'm in DC. He said, I'm in Atlanta. I said, well, I don't know. I don't do long distance classes. And about 2 years later, he walked in the door and said, here I am. And I thought he was visiting for a weekend, and he's been here and haven't left since. And that's been 20 years ago. 22. I've been trying to. Anyway, I will say that is dedication far beyond what I've seen before in anybody coming into ministry. So without going any further, I want to introduce to everybody Reverend Dr. Wallace Henry, the pastor of Inner Light Ministries. Hello, sir. How are you this evening?
I am wonderful, Bishop, and thank you for having me back.
Yes.
It is, been looking forward to this all day. And just remember the first month of starting this, I was interviewing you and asking questions and hosting with you. So now,
yes,
to be back, it is a pleasure and an honor to come and join you tonight and have some fun.
Great, great, great. Well, I'm going to ask you the same question that I have asked everybody from Bishop Flounder to Iyanla Vanzant. And that is, tell your story, how you got from where you started to where you are. What was your journey?
Wow. That's a I was thinking about that earlier today, just how far I would go back. So I'm going to go all the way back. I'm the youngest of 8, and I grew up Catholic, and I remember my mother waking us all up at 6 o'clock in the morning for prayer and reading scripture. And so that was just the way that we grew up. I knew in the morning time, it was that. And there are pictures of me half asleep on the floor, but up and being a part of that ritual, prayer and scripture. And my mom, I'm going to say, is the person that planted that seed in my life, in me. Like most folks, when I got to a certain age, probably going off to college is when I stopped going to church, well, Catholic church anyway. And even before then, I had an experience at 12. My mom had briefly left the Catholic church, and so she took us to Holiness Church for New Year's Eve. And this was 1980. And I think I was maybe about 10 or 11. And so it's New Year's Eve service, and we're visiting, hearing music and all this excitement in church for almost like the first time. So it was a life-changing experience. And we got to the altar call, and I didn't ask. I don't remember even asking my mother for permission. I just got up when they called and made my way down the aisle. And so when I got down there, the pastor, of course, greeted me. And the mother of the church, she said to me that you're going to be a preacher. And I ran with that. It resonated within me even as a child. And so while we were at this church for a few months, we started bringing my friends with me. And so our playtime changed to, we were doing church. And guess who was the preacher? And so we did that, and we that was our thing. And getting older, I never lost sight of that. But as I began to deal with my own sexuality and the negative response that I received from the church, I distanced myself from that reality or that message that was spoken to me, because I began to question, how can I do what you want me to do, God, as a gay man? And I'm going to say my shift to really moving forward in faith came a few years later in, I would say 1988. I rejoined a church and started, it was a faith church. And so, I love to be able to look back on the story to see, you can see God's handiwork as you're going back through all of your ups and downs. And I remember the major theme was faith, and faith in action. Faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of God. At that point, I was following, and now I'm trying to remember, I just had his name and it escaped from me, from Los Angeles, Fred Price, Dr. Fred Price. So I followed him a lot. And so all this information about faith and being built up. And so in 89, when I received my diagnosis for being HIV positive, all that came up for me. And so I did not take it as a death sentence, because if I go backward to 82, I can remember watching the TV and hearing a program where they're talking about AIDS. And I can't remember how old I was at that point, but I said within myself that was going to be me, but I'm not going to die. And so when the reality hit in 88, I held on to that. And so I began just to feed myself with the word, and came to a level of comfort. And I just thank God for the preparation of faith, because at that point, I already knew that God could do anything. I already knew that I was not this was not going to be my end, but it was going to be my rise. And so from that point, I was back in church, had just started, I did my trial sermon in I always get the 1992. No, 1991. And did a trial serving, was in a church in Baltimore, got married because that was the thing to do with the church. And so got married. 4 years later, we ended up divorced. Got married with her knowing who I was and what my history was. So I didn't go in hiding that part of me. And so after that, just began to, we moved to Atlanta, gotten into a church, and then at a Baptist church, and had a very negative experience with my then pastor, because I was telling my story and being transparent about being HIV positive and how I contracted it. And so after my sermon, he gets up and he says, "We're not endorsing a lifestyle." And so I said, "Well, I'm not coming back until we have a conversation, because that's unacceptable." Because even in talking about through my sermon, I never mentioned anything, but he drew his own conclusion. He already knew about my lifestyle or my life, and felt he needed to come behind me and make a statement. And so never went back. And then I was just like, okay, God, I'm done. I'm done, not doing ministry, da, 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 da. So I'm in Atlanta, and I can't even remember how Unity Fellowship came to Atlanta, but I remember sitting down with the pastor. He was trying to create like a starting group. And so we went to dinner. And so I'm sitting across the table, arms folded. And I'm like, okay, convince me. And you know, the mantra, God is love and loves for everyone. And so he begins to talk to me about what he wants to do, and begins to introduce me back to a loving God. And so as my arms slowly unfolded, I then became a founding member of Unity Fellowship Atlanta, and went on to be part of the first deacon class and board member there. And so that's how our paths crossed in, what was it, 98, 97, 98. And at that point, I just, must have been 97, because I think it was the first time was before I had my accident. And there are people that you meet along your way, and I have a few of those people that when you have this encounter, it awakens that yes in you that you've been waiting for. And as I sat in your session, the art of loving yourself, I was like, okay. I knew that I was looking for you. And now the teacher has appeared. And at that point, I had no intention of moving back to DC. And I don't even know if we discussed the fact that I grew up in DC. So I was pretty much a Washingtonian, because we moved here. I don't think I was even 2. But as things would have it, I got into accident in 1998. And so from there, Spirit said to me, go home. And so I began to make plans to come back to DC. And in my accident, I rolled in my vehicle across the highway, fell asleep. And I lost my left thumb and had about 100 or so stitches on my left arm. and spent a month and a half in the hospital, 3 surgeries, and 3 months, 90 days of going to the hospital every day to get my wounds cleaned and rebandaged. And so it felt like I was in the hospital for 90 days. But during that time, I can remember when I got home, my mom had come down to be with me, and we were just watching TV one night. And in this show, this young man had died, and I got up and just went to the bathroom and lost it, and locked the door. I'm trying to get in, and then I was just once I finally opened it, I'm still crying for about an hour, and I'm on my bed, and just in the moment, hearing God say, "You have to get up." You have to get up. And then being in a mall probably a few weeks later, and because I went into a pity party, how could this happen to me? And then I look as I'm walking, and I see a young man in a wheelchair with no arms and no legs. I said, I got it. I got it, because I can clap my hands and I can move my legs. I was upset initially. The first time when I came back to church after coming to the hospital, and I couldn't clap my hands, it broke my heart. But I still ran around that church because my legs still move fine. And so my journey with, I moved from Atlanta in January of 2000. And that's when I came to Inner Life, slipped in the back. It was called out. Right up front. And so was there and was just glad to be a part of your church, and was just amazed as I started coming and hearing the teaching. And then I'm like, hey, you're not doing nothing with this. Folks that were there. I'm like, do you know what you're getting? Been hungry for this type of word. The way out took me out. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. And so from deacon, minister, reverend, assistant pastor, I was comfortable. I was quite comfortable, right where I was at.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No further aspirations. Then here you come. On your birthday. I have a question for you. Nope, I'll call you back. Nope, we'll talk later. And so, yeah, 2015, what was it, 2016? Yeah, 2016, when you installed me to the honor of taking over as pastor.
You know, you have really had a journey to get to where you are. And that's why I love asking that question, because people so often think that people just popped up in place and that it was easy. Mm-hmm. And I always love to watch people fight with God, because your fight is saying yes at first was as a gay man, just like women will fight because some women don't feel like they've been called because or can't preach because they're women. Mm-hmm. But I have discovered that when God wants you, it doesn't make any difference who you are. It doesn't make any difference what you do. And so often people think that you have to be perfect. And I said, if you just do a simple reading on the life of the disciples, Jesus called the most raggedy crew to be his 12 disciples that he could have chosen.
Yes.
Because he had hundreds of disciples. He could have picked any one of them that were like, well off or educated. He picked the raggediest 12 that he could. but he knew that they were going to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes in ministry. Somebody willing to do the work. Just like when you came and saw, and as much as I was pushing, because in the beginning, I got so much pushback because people could not accept what I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people that admitted to me they came because of the music.
Yeah.
I mean, I had Jackie Ruffin from the Richard
Mm-hmm.
Smallwood Singers. I had William Hubbard. Then came E. Marcus. So Brian Bocock. So my music department was off the chain. And a lot of people came just because of the music. And I got a letter about 5 years ago from somebody who said, "You may not remember me. I used to come to your church. I came only because of the music. I didn't agree with a lot of what you were teaching. But now that I have studied, I found out you were more right than wrong. I just wasn't ready to hear it." Mm-hmm. And the blessing was you walked in the door ready to hear it.
Yes.
So yes, and I knew long before the time came up to ask you about were you ready to be pastor. I saw that early when you got there. So you got set up in life just like I did. I was called little preacher when I was born, and had no desire to be a preacher. Well, that was your journey on how you got from where you started to where you are. And it was an incredible journey. Now, and you actually gave part of it. My second question is, when did you move from being a believer to a knower? What was an experience that moved you to knowing God, not just believing God?
Now, we talked about this before. I was because it kind of, it's in two places, but I'm going to go to the second one, and I'm going to say my accident shifted my life, propelled it forward, because it definitely stopped me in my tracks, and it moved a lot of things out of the way for me to move forward, because from that point, I will say that I began to truly live, because I began to pursue the passions that I had, because I think my life had become more precious to me. Now, the experience initially was traumatizing, of course, because of all the pain and the loss that was associated with it. Because I lost a very good friend that was in the vehicle with me, and I lost my ability to do certain things, and had to learn new ways of doing and accommodating for myself. But then I also, it pushed me in terms of going into my career, in terms of education, and it just made me live even more on purpose. I remember being in the hospital and laying in my bed. I had my favorite song, LA Mass, That's When You Bless Me. And so one of my good friends, Daryl, had brought the tape and a recorder to the room. And song is on, and I'm laying in bed, and I go up in tongues, and I'm just crying, and not a little low. I was I was at the top of my voice, and just understanding, just feeling, I mean, laying all bandaged up, morphine still dripping, and just being in a place of gratitude and seeing that moment as that's when you bless me. Because I still had life, and I still was moving forward. And just so many things came out of that in terms of just shifting, because I would say I got in a hurry, and at that point just kept that momentum going to be in a hurry and to come back.
You said that was in the hospital?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I know, I think God has such a sense of humor, because we find ourselves surrendering in the strangest places.
Yes.
And God don't care where you are.
Uh-uh.
And sometimes it's ugly.
Yes,
that
it was.
you surrender to God and say yes. And often not even knowing what the full yes is.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Nope.
just that you have finally surrendered to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
My, you know me, mine happened in the hospital too. Hospitals have a way of wakening you up.
Oh yeah.
Realize just how precious your life is
Mm-hmm.
On this journey. And it also, you realize that it moves you into a place of really wanting to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me today, how do you know when you're called to ministry? And I said, do you have a desire to serve people? And he said, I think so. I said, it can't be a think so. It has to be, I know so.
Mm-hmm.
That's what ministry is about serving people. And people think that, especially when you become a pastor or ordained
Mm-hmm.
in the religion, that everything is super okay. I'm going to ask you, tell me, you've been pastoring now 3 years, 4 years,
Four.
4 years.
About to be five. 5 in July.
Wow. Yes.
Whew.
What's been the most surprising thing for you?
Let me say this first. I think coming into it, it's never been, because I didn't want it, and I didn't want the title, because I never feel like, and I talk to so many people in ministry and just hear different friends that they covet the position for the title. And I have enough titles. And titles don't make me who I am. It just allows me to do certain things. And so what I have learned over these few years, and I think especially very much in the beginning, I experienced, I guess, and I told everybody, it was almost as if God shaped and shifted my heart. I had served, yes, and served almost 20 years before becoming pastor. But it was almost as if there was a falling in love with the people, and wanting to see the very best for them and to continue along the path of helping people to discover their divinity and who they are, and supporting them in that path. And sometimes, and sometimes understanding that path may, and I've said that path may not stay with me. You may not stay here, but while you're here, and as your pastor, it's my responsibility to ensure that you get everything that I can possibly give you. I'm not concerned about anyone taking my place, because it's my place. And I feel it as far as it doesn't make me. It's what God has placed in me, and this is the venue that I'm able to pour it out from, and to expand and do more. it has taught me a different level of patience. And I work with, have worked most of the years with children and with teachers. And I've told everybody I've dealt with the full spectrum. So come with what you can come with. So I see you coming a mile away. But I think God did that preparation in right along with me coming through ministry, because all of that comes together to support. Because I mean, I love to teach. I love to teach, and I love to preach, and I love, because it fuels me. I'm a lifelong learner, and so there are areas that I know more about than others, but I don't have to be the master of at anything. I just have to be honest and be able to say, if we're going in the direction I'm walking, especially if it's something that I may not be as familiar, I'm saying we're walking this journey together, and I'm going to unfold in an honest and open and transparent way. Because all I have to do is just, if I get in position, I know I'm going to get what I need to get, in what needs to be said is going to be brought out of me. And I'm thankful for that mantle that constantly delivers. And so, and I think back about your hazing. I think back about that. Do you remember when I was being ordained as reverend? Or was it assistant? I think it was reverend. And the first time you made me preach for a whole month. But the discipline of having to do that and understanding the weight of that, because it taught me how to listen and how to hear God, and how to get in a position to hear and to allow God to speak. And now it is a knowing that I don't have to try to figure out. It's more of a clicking in, because when a sermon falls, it falls a certain way within my spirit, and I know it's just boom. Now I don't. It's the wrestle of, oh well, it's when it's time, it's coming. So I learned to be patient and to wait on it, and God has never disappointed me yet.
You know, when I asked you what that you learned over in becoming pastor, and one of the first things that you said was that you want the best for the people. And that is exactly why I knew you were the right person. With all the people I knew, with all the degrees and all the letters behind their names, that didn't mean a thing to me. Great, you got a master's or a doctorate in divinity. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for somebody who really loved people and wanted the best for people. And as you know, I say to people all the time, when you come, the door wasn't locked when you came in, and it's not locked if you want to go. But we're going to teach you and give you the best that we can give you in this process. One of the great things that I had to learn in the process was you got to have some tough skin, because everybody's not going to like you no matter what you do. Yeah. I've been cussed out so many times. I tell people, learn some new words, learn it in a new language or something. I mean, it's getting a little boring being called the same name over and over. Mm-hmm. But you got to have that kind of heart to serve in leadership, in ministry. I don't care what ministry you're in, to have the heart to serve God's people. That's really, really big. And it's one of the things that I saw in you right in the beginning.
Thank you. You made me think about something else too. And you have said this many times, and one of the things over the past few years that has been essential, and I've tried to demonstrate it as best as I can, you have to be able to hold the space.
Yes.
And to be committed and to be faithful, regardless of how many are in front of you and regardless of what others are doing. And I tell you, because I said yes. I said yes. And so there have been times, even on a prayer call, where I'm the only one there. And so, and I can't, and I thank God from the very beginning that I'm not caught up in a number. I'm caught up in who's there. I'm caught up in, okay, who's there and what is the need that is in front of me? Because it's not about trying to make a name or to achieve this or achieve that, but it's about being faithful and being able to hold the space and allow God to do what God wants to do. And I've learned that in the peace of operating there has keeps me from being all, because things happen and folks looking around and they're trying to figure out what you're going to do. And my response is, I didn't call me to this. I just have to be here. I just have to be here. I have to be here 100% and be faithful in that. And I know that God is not going to leave me nor forsake me. God is going to do what God has intended to do. And that's what I want to be empty when I'm done.
Well, you know, two words that I always look in people for, and the word is discipline and dedication. You need the discipline to do the studies. You need the discipline even to get up and pray. You need the discipline to be on time. You need that discipline. And I saw that in you right from the beginning, because you are a workhorse. and dedication. From meeting you, I meet a lot of people, but I can clearly remember meeting you because you kept showing up at the workshops way back then, over 20 years ago, and watching you work and working with people. Dedication and discipline. I had to laugh because the DD behind my name, I know it's supposed to be Doctor for Divinity, but I say dedication and discipline.
There you go.
To do this work. And people think that you're going to get enlightened overnight or the flip of a switch. That's what they want, and be enlightened. Or you're just supposed to learn everything and you're supposed to know everything just because you can flip the switch. I've how many times even trying to teach somebody the basics of just pouring libation, and they got the words right, but they're not really pouring libation. They're just saying words. It takes the dedication and the discipline to not just know these, because anybody can learn the order of something, but to be dedicated that you embody it. I always say people listen to what they see. And so when I watch you and what I see when I'm listening, I see the past. That's what I saw. So you didn't have a choice but to say yes anyway, because I was going to come and sit on your doorstep if you had said no. And tell me, what's the journey for this year coming?
What's the journey for this year? My focus, and I'm going to say for me this year, is balance. And that's physical and emotional balance, and really leaning in more to taking care of myself. Because I can fix a platter. I can't even say a plate. I can work a platter. But just making sure that there are certain things on my plate, because as I move forward, I'm always thinking about, okay, if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I got to make sure that even in the midst of working a full-time job and the demands of running a school, I still have to have time to spend with God, to spend with myself, so that I'm available to give and to continue to feed those that need things from me and are seeking things from God.
Yes,
and so that's
yes.
Just maintaining that focus going into this year, and creating that space and that experience for me to thrive in.
Mm-hmm. And most people don't realize that most pastors, they see pastors that have big churches, and that's a full-time job. But most smaller churches, most pastors have a full-time job, and pastoring is still a full-time job. You know, being able to counsel with people, and people will call you any hour, every hour. I had to laugh at myself the other night because somebody called me at 3:30 in the morning. And I just started to go, you need to be calling your pastor. And I just realized, no, this is still, they were in a little crisis, and it meant wake up and help them out. But most people don't realize that people that are pastoring like yourself, it takes so much energy and dedication to do this work. So I'm grateful for your yes. And I sit back like the proud papa, go, yeah, that's I trained them, yeah. What is, see, I'm trying to, my handwriting sometimes is a little scratchy.
Mine too.
So it in self-care is so important. Mm-hmm. And being able to do this work long term. I had to learn that in the beginning. I thought that, you know, I could just keep running. And one of my mentors said, oh, so you don't plan to do this for long term. You only plan to do this for a short moment. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't see any space in here when you really take off. And then you don't take off. He said, you're in the office on Monday. I said, well, yeah. He said, no pastor go to work on Monday. Monday is your Saturday. And it took me a while to learn that before I almost burnt out in the process. Mm-hmm. So I'm so great to hear about self-care, and anybody else in ministry in any kind. Let that be a little footnote to you, to some self-care, time to take off and time to enjoy yourself, because we need to model what it's like to be healthy. And you know, I tried to say to somebody today, I said, do you think that I'm doing spiritual work 24/7? No. One of the best pictures I remember and I wish I could find this picture. It was a picture of Jesus just laughing. He was just leaning back, mouth open, laughing. And it was called The Laughing Jesus. And I wanted to get that picture because I had a picture also of my teacher, one of my teachers, Swamiji, laughing. He was just bent over about something, laughing. And it meant have some fun in this process. I know that you have a couple of hobbies. See, I'm gonna tell on him because this is one who writes poetry in a heartbeat. Yes. What got you into poetry?
It was a way to express myself, and surprisingly, to some people, I was very shy growing up.
Excuse me. What you were about 2? Because I know by 4 you were out.
When I want to say when adolescence came, I felt like I lost my confidence. I lost my voice because when just in high school, if I raised my hand, I got called on, and my teacher would say, "Wallace has his hand up, so I'm going to call him because he never has his hand up." And I think part of me was still on the be seen and not heard. And so giving myself permission to speak, I got into a program called Project. It was a theater group for teens. And that began to give me a voice. And I could remember, and I wish I had this video, I was emceeing a concert in college, and I couldn't have been drier toast as the MC. Nothing. And for my friends that were there, because they clowned me really hard afterwards. And when they tune in and see me now, they're just like, "You come quite a way."
So that was your preparation ground, huh?
See, that was our preparation ground. But I mean, and I have to thank you because you allowed me to develop and explore my voice. I didn't have to be a carbon copy of you. I had to find what my voice is. Mm-hmm. And own that. And I so appreciate having been given that opportunity just to find my voice and to fully own it.
You know, I always say that you have to take center stage of your own life, not somebody else's. And, you know, I always used to tell you, don't copy me. You can take from me what you think is good, but a carbon copy is never as good as the original. And, you know, I've said to you, especially lately, oh yes, you have truly taken center stage and found your voice. And I love hearing you preach. I laugh because I was talking to some pastors one time where all of us started laughing about hearing like our proteges come up, and one of them said, "You know, I'm not sure if he said, I have mixed emotions. I'm proud that he can preach the way he preached, but then sometimes I'm like, well, hell, he's out preaching me." And all of us bust out laughing and say, we know what that feels like. I look at you and I just go, he's on fire. Yes, he's on fire. Well, we're down near the end. Is there anything you like to else share with us before we get close to the end?
The one thing that I was going to say is just, I'm going to say half of we've been in this pandemic for what, 2.5 years now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's in half of my pastoral time has been in this pandemic. And I'm going to say that it has helped stabilize me. And just experiencing God in this way through this, because the teaching and the sermon preparation with everything that has been going on, that has been my grounding. That has been my grounding, and being able to step out of everything and to be in the position to. That's why I truly, and I tell the other ministers, I will teach every Wednesday, because that's for me. Because that's my preparation. That's preparation time. That is understanding, and that's unfolding, and God feeding me. And same thing for just on Sundays. And so I appreciate, because I'm going to say, God has done some wonderful things for me through this process. And my understanding of just standing in the midst of a storm and being able to help others to do that. Because I'm going to say because of where we are, I have intentionally leaned in harder, because I want to make sure that even in these trying moments, that folks are uplifted, and that they find the joy and the rainbow and all of it. Because I'm just like, I took another job in the middle. I got a job offer in the middle of a pandemic. And I just moved into a new house, and just grateful for the spiritual grounding, and then everything else just comes. Because I change clothes I change cars like shoes used to. It's the experience of life. You gotta enjoy it. I'm not attached to things, because I could remember just in 2015 when they came and took my car in the middle of the night. And I still got on that subway, came to church, worked, and did what had to be done. And all that was lost came back even greater. So it's not about. So and I'm glad that I don't have things, that things don't have me.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of the greatest lessons that you can learn, and especially people that are on a spiritual path. You know me, I have said, you could take everything in here. I'm not attached to one thing here. And you have to be careful, because we all like nice things, but I have it doesn't have me. And I said to my son again the other night, I said, little man, you understand that when breath leaves my body, you have everything in here. You can come and take everything. He said, Dad, I know, because he don't like for me to talk about that. But it's a great lesson, because it's easy for the ego to make it about you when you are in leadership and leading people the way you lead people in pastoring. I'm just going to say we got a couple of minutes, and if anybody who's watching want to ask a question at any time, please just put it in the chat. We'll get it, or unmute yourself and ask it, and we'll just go from there, because we got about 5 minutes left. So I want to thank you for your yes to coming, your yes to being in ministry, your yes for joining church, your yes for becoming a pastor. I thank you, and your yes for being on this show, because you really didn't have no choice. I was going to make you come anyway.
My pleasure, my honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, we are down to the last couple of minutes in the show. And the reason why I wanted you to come on is so that people can understand the journey. A lot of people fight with a yes. And God called us in many different ways. Some of us are called to be pastors. Some of us are called to just be administrators. And I tell everybody, every good pastor need a good usher, need a good greeter at the door. So we all have different callings in our life. And so I say thank you to everybody that say yes to the calling in their life.
I just want to say something. Can I?
Surely.
So this is Pearl and Bishop Wallace. I just enjoyed your honesty and your humbleness. I even got some notes from things that you said that for me to remember. And I think that you, I'm sure that you touch people in a very deep and sincere way, because that is what I get from you. And so I just thank you for being here and for sharing your story. And thanks, Bishop Cheeks, for having you. So
Thank you, Ms.
and
Pearl.
God
Thank you
bless
so
you.
much. God bless you as well.
Thank you.
Yes, don't worry, Pearl. I'm going to get you one day.
Oh, goodness.
Uh-huh. Well, we are down to those last couple of minutes. I'm going to ask Pastor Wallace to pray us out.
Okay. Everyone take a deep breath. God, we thank you for yet another opportunity just to come together to celebrate your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. God, thank you for each of our journeys. Thank you for allowing us to come together tonight to share. Thank you, God, for blessing us with your grace, with your strength, with your might. God, we thank you for blessing Bishop Cheeks and all the wisdom that you have instilled in him. Thank you for the elevation of his voice, the elevation of his platform. Thank you for continuing to bless and to use him in a mighty way. Thank you for all those that he continues to reach. And thank you, God, for extending his reach even further. God, we thank you for being able to be here to fortify this mission and to give another yes to what you are doing in and through his life. God, we praise you and we give you thanks for continued health upon him. And God, I thank you for even greater audiences hearing all the wisdom that he has to share. Continue to bless each and every one of us as we leave this space, but never from your presence. In your son, Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
I
thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for all of you that join me every Thursday night right here on Rainey Speaks. You can email me at iamraineyspeaks@gmail.com and I will get it. If there's a subject that you would like for me to talk on, please just shoot that information to me and I will do my best to speak on that subject. I am announcing that next month, I will be opening the National Spiritual Science Center again. I have become the spiritual director for that organization. And, but I will always be right here. I thank you for everyone who support me on Thursday nights, whether you join me or make a donation, that's right there on Cash App. Appreciate it. it helps me to keep doing the work. I pray that everybody that see you, hear you, touch you, even think of you, will experience the love of God flowing in your life. May the love of God fill you, surround you, keep you, and protect you. And may the love of light of God go before you on every journey, clearing the path, making highs lows and lows highs. For these blessings and all blessings, I simply say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Meadow, I see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for
And thank
joining
you.
me.
Thank you, Bishop.
This song is by Richard Smallwood.
Are all I need, and where you lead me, I will follow. And with all my heart, I give you praise.
Well, thank you everybody for joining me, and I will see you next Thursday night at 7 p.m. right here on Rainey Speaks. Peace.
I say, Baba. Bye.